Good evening, night owls. It is 10:42 Central Time in Wisconsin, where I'm recording. Welcome to the Week 11 waiver wire ads and pickups segment here on the Armchair Athletes channel. Another live stream. If it's your first time here, thank you for joining. Welcome. My name is Corey, and this is Armchair Athletes, where I do plenty of fantasy analyses, case studies, and I answer all of your fantasy questions in the comments section below. So how this thing's going to go is I'm going to give you guys 5 waiver wire pickup targets, and then we do an open Q&A. So compile those questions in the comments, and I will be sure to get to those ASAP. Before we get going with all of the key pickup options, make sure that you like and subscribe. We are almost at 250 subscribers. We're 5 away as I speak right now. And as Thanksgiving approaches, there is nothing I would love to do more than explain to my family that me sitting in a room on a computer for a few hours a week is actually amounting to something. So I would appreciate that very much. Make sure before we get started that you follow us on all of our social medias for updates. I do a lot of waiver wire targets. I do fantasy targets, people who are kind of sleepers, if you will. Just players you want to go after as the week progresses. Injury updates, analyses on different teams, case studies requested by all of you, and much, much more. Also, before we get going, make sure you check out the Start 2 Sit 1 YouTube Shorts series that we have going on. All 4 posts will be up by tomorrow. I did quarterbacks and running backs today, and then tomorrow will be wide receivers and, of course, tight ends. See, we've got some people in the chat so far, so welcome. Make sure you guys like and make sure you subscribe if it's your first time. I am up late and grinding. I may or may not have an 8 a.m. tomorrow, but just because I'm busy doesn't mean you guys aren't. I want to make sure that you get all of your fantasy football information on a weekly basis, so no weeks off and really no days off. We've got a lot of YouTube shorts coming up as well. Did a couple cool ones, one on CMC earlier. The situation with him and Elijah Mitchell, and we can dive into that later if that's of concern to any of you. And we also, of course, did our Start 2 Sit 1 Shorts series. So here are 5 waiver wire pickup options that you've got to go after, all right? Let's start with the first one. We'll start at the quarterback position. This one's pretty low-key. I was high on this guy a few weeks ago. Had a couple of not-so-great weeks due to an injured wide receiving core. TJ Hawkinson leaves. That, of course, does not help the situation at all. So this is what I'm going to call a high-floor play. Jared Goff looked poised, and the Lions offense had to lean on him against Chicago in Week 10 in what ended up being a shootout, 31-30. When the run game faltered, they had to lean on Goff, And under Dan Campbell, I really think that when you can lean on the passing game, when you can lean on your quarterback and they come in and deliver, he's going to get more keys to the offense. Not that he doesn't already have them, but maybe more usage coming the next week. We also have to consider that Jamal Williams is questionable right now, and DeAndre Swift hasn't been getting a whole lot of usage since coming back from the injury anyway, so we could see a pass-heavy scheme this week against the Giants. Next, let's just talk about his wide receiving core, Jared Goff's, that is. So Amon St. Brown goes down. Hawkinson gets traded. St. Brown comes back. Josh Reynolds gets hurt. DJ Chark has been out. We haven't seen Jameson Williams yet. Are you seeing a theme? Inconsistency. Injuries. There are a lot of holes in this core over in Detroit. Lots of missing pieces on this offense. However, there is a possibility that Brown, who is healthy, Reynolds, who is questionable, and Khalif Raymond will all be on the field at the same time. That is more than Jared Goff usually has. Again, tight end gone. Got to adjust to somebody stepping up in that spot. And then, of course, Chark and Jameson Williams, that's been the story with the ACL injury in Alabama last year. Will be back eventually, but he's just not back yet. So he's got his tentative top 3, dare I say it, and he may have Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift in together as well. So that's kind of the situation with Jared Goff, pretty cut and dry. It's a high floor play. Deeper leagues, I would definitely go for this. Completion percentage was up in the 70s against Chicago, and they got the win. So some trust going there. Hurt in the backfield is Jamal Williams. Maybe they won't lean as hard on DeAndre Swift as we think. So I think Jared Goff gets some throws in. And that defense has been abysmal. So if they give up the amount of yards I think they will to Saquon Barkley, it's going to be a throw-heavy game script, especially in the second half, as Detroit tries to claw their way back as they usually have to. Next one, Isaiah Pacheco. I called this about 4 to 5 weeks ago, and I wasn't the only one to do it. We said this a few weeks ago. It looks like he's going to take over for CEH. He looks more efficient. Maybe it's because he's wearing number 10, and that's what Tyreek used to do. He's involved in the special teams unit for a reason. He's got raw speed. Reading the blocks was going to be the question. How can he really take over in that running back role? He's been more efficient so far. So Isaiah Pacheco, officially the feature back over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is number 1 in the running back depth chart. It is official. He was in for a season-high 56% of snaps in Week 10, and Pacheco thrived. 16 rushes for 82 yards. From a fantasy perspective, not too exciting. but it helped the Chiefs' decision in slotting him up to that number 1 running back spot. Pacheco is more efficient than CEH by about half a yard to carry. It's 4.7 yards per carry to 4.2, so he will assume this role until stated otherwise. Let's keep this into perspective, though. I don't want to be overly selling this Pacheco pickup. He'll probably sit on your bench unless you're in a deeper league, a dynasty league. If you're in a dynasty league, he was probably already picked up, if we're being honest. But the Chiefs throw the ball at the 4th highest rate in the league at 64% of the time, so this makes Pacheco a pickup in deeper leagues. The other 36% of the time they're running it, CEH is still going to get his carries. I don't think that the Chiefs are entirely sold on Pacheco, but they are giving him this spot at the moment because he has been the more productive back, and they want to be able to try and at least convince other teams that they're going for a balanced attack so they don't sell out on the pass, so Patty Mahomes can do more through the air. But Isaiah Pacheco has not been very involved in the passing game. If he does get involved in the passing game more than he is in special teams, which always worries me when those guys are involved in special teams, very high collision scenarios, I really worry about. Even just guys setting blocks, you got somebody running at you full speed for 50-plus yards. Injuries are definitely more in the question than on a conventional play in offense or defense. But I think that if Pacheco can become more involved in the passing game, he becomes appealing in your 12 or maybe even 10-team leagues as a bench warmer. Plug and play. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody's on a bye week. A few people are on a bye week and you didn't draft too smart. That would kind of be where Isaiah Pacheco falls in. But he's the running back 1 in Kansas City right now. Anytime we have an upgrade like that, we've got to track it. So here we are tracking it. See LBR's in the chat. LBR, I will look at your trade in just a moment, my guy. I'm just going to go over a couple more picks, and then we'll get to it. If you've got any friends or family, LBR, who are also looking in fantasy football, Week 11 action, like they might need some help, like they've got some bye weeks they got to get over, like they've got some of these horrible injuries, Cooper Kupp, Darren Waller, and many, many others impacting their team, well, just send them my way, LBR, and we'll get them taken care of. So for number 3, let's go DeAndre Carter. I feel like I just keep running down the line in terms of the Chargers wide receiving core. This is more of a by default pick, as you may guess. But Carter has shown out in his increased opportunities. If we look here, this is just the depth chart for the Los Angeles Chargers. Keenan Allen questionable for like the 10th week in a row almost. Mike Williams once again questionable. Allen's got that nagging hamstring injury. Carter is actually questionable with a possible rib injury that could alter his decision to play or not. Guyton's on the IR. Everett is even questionable. It's really been Joshua Palmer and friends. Like, we don't have a whole lot of consistency in this wide receiving core. The Chargers have one of the most bruised up receiving cores I have ever seen, just excluding 2022. Like, overall, general statement, I have not seen a team this bruised up in a while. So that's kind of the situation there. Carter, again, questionable with that rib injury, so make sure you monitor that. It is only Wednesday, but he was not in practice today. So as we get into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we really got to start analyzing that. But Carter did capitalize on his increased role with double-digit fantasy points in each of his last 2 weeks. He even got above 14 in standard PPR format, so that is very appealing. And if we're talking about a plug-and-play scenario or a stream scenario, if you will, depending on the type of terminology you like to use with fantasy football, the Chiefs, his Week 11 opponents, allow a league-high 2.1 passing touchdowns per game as well. If he plays, this may be a big plug-and-play just for Week 11. I talk about in my Start 2, Sit 1 short series for the quarterback position, I'm putting Justin Herbert in there. I don't care if the entire wide receiving core is hurt. He's going up against the Chiefs defense that has allowed more passing touchdowns per game than anybody else. Dustin, what's up, brother? If you have any questions at all, just let me know. We are going through 5 waiver wire pickup options right now, and then I can open it up for an open Q&A. So LBR, Dustin, anybody else who's dropping in the chat, lurking at about 11 p.m., at least that's my time zone right now. Make sure you drop those questions in the chat. It's never too early to prepare for Week 11. We've already got Thursday night football tomorrow. It's going to be the Packers and the Tennessee Titans, which that game will be taking place about 45 minutes from my apartment where this is being shot right now. So drop those fantasy football questions in the chat, and we will dissect every bit of them, all right, my man? So that was DeAndre Carter. Let's move on to another wide receiver. This one's not so much of a sleeper. I'm pretty sure the entire fantasy football and just football world in general is talking about this guy and the explosive game that he had, Christian Watson. What on earth was Week 10? This guy had like 80-something receiving yards through the first 9 weeks. Obviously, injuries were in there. Decreased snap count because he wasn't really able to rack in the ball. He had some drop issues, injury issues, as I just said. What on earth? So he had more yards and more touchdowns. He didn't have any touchdowns throughout the whole year. Through the air, he had 1 rushing touchdown. So he has like 100-plus receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. That's all more than he had accumulated throughout the first 9 weeks. So Christian Watson, I want to break him down as a player in general. Let's get to know somebody who a lot of people probably want to pick up. He's already owned in over 40% of leagues. A lot of people did that trick where they may have had a depth player in on Monday night. So after the Sunday performance, they dropped a player in that Monday night football game who they didn't think they needed, and then they picked up Christian Watson, so they did not have to wait for the waiver wire period. They didn't want to have to wait till after Wednesday. They jumped at him. That just shows how excited a lot of people were for Christian Watson. Brian, we out here at 11:50. Supposed to be studying for my physiology exam, but fantasy football is more important. Brian, I have an 8 a.m. tomorrow, and it is 10:50 here, and this stream is going to go for a while. So I feel you, man. Priorities. Weekly grind. It was Wednesday night, and I started throwing this thing together, and I was like, oh, I've got some final projects coming up. I've got an 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, but I should probably get this in. So here we are. Just because I'm busy, it doesn't mean you guys are, and you guys are still finding time to come in and tune into this stream. So why would I not put out content for you guys? That's the way I'm seeing it. So, Brian, I hope you do well on your exam, but my goodness, thank you for joining me at this late hour. So just diving into Christian Watson, his strengths, breakaway speed and his size at 6'5". He's a go up and get it wide receiver. Very appealing to me. He was given 5.7 yards of cushion per play by the Dallas Cowboys. They acknowledged his breakaway speed, his ability to get away from somebody on the break, get wide open, and that's what he did. He found the holes. He was 4 for 8 in terms of receptions to target, 50% catch rate, not something we're crazy about, but 3 of those freaking catches were touchdowns. So a very explosive play, caliber wide receiver. Rodgers is going to be able to trust him in the future on taking those deep shots, and that's something that Green Bay has loved to do both in the McCarthy and LaFleur era. So, one of the highest rates in the league in terms of yards per cushion in Week 10 was given to Mr. Christian Watson. What are his weaknesses? Availability and drops. So we talk about injury. Is this guy, does he have glass limbs? That joke gets thrown around. Well, he's not hurt right now. And some guy named Devontae Adams had drop problems a few years ago and seemed to turn out pretty okay because of his development within Green Bay's system. I think drops are very, 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 very amendable. So it can be an early issue, but we've got a rookie about halfway through his rookie season with some drop issues, with some availability issues. I would be more worried about the injuries. We want somebody who's going to be on the field. We talk availability, opportunity, and productivity. That first tri-sector, if you will, of availability, they've got to be healthy. I see Michael Bernardo in the chat. Welcome, man. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're getting some value out of these waiver wire pickups. I will get to everyone's questions in just a moment. I've got one more waiver wire pickup suggestion after Christian Watson. So just to catch all of you up, we did Jared Goff, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Carter. Depending on his situation this week, he is questionable with a rib injury right now. It is only Wednesday, so we got to monitor that and be smart about it. Christian Watson is who I just wrapped up on here. Well, I'm still going to talk a little bit more about him, and then Foster Moreau. So one other thing I want to talk about with the Packers is they love to abandon the run heavily when down. Now, everybody does this. I talk about game scripts all the time if you know me. I don't shut up about it. Game script, game script, game script. If you have a running back for a winning team like the Eagles, Miles Sanders, he's going to get those garbage time carries. Conversely, if you have a team that's losing a lot of games, you're going to want to go for that wide receiver one and think Brandon Cooks or Nico Collins. Depending on who ends up taking that wide receiver one spot over there, they're going to get the garbage time receptions, right? So this team in Green Bay, they especially abandon the run extremely heavily when down. I'm talking some drives, they will not run it at all. So even if Green Bay gets on another losing streak again, he would get more looks. Watson was also in for a season-high 84% of snaps in Week 10. We were seeing a lot of 30, 40, 50, 60%. So in there about, the flip of a coin, half of the time or even less. But his usage started to decrease until last week where he had that one big play. LaFleur kept him in, and things went well from there. And he was a key contributor in a win for this Green Bay team. We've got to look at context, guys. They trust Christian Watson now. They're going to have to. They're going to have to ride this guy and ride whatever weapons they can. It looked like Romeo Doubs for a bit. Lazard's been a quiet wide receiver one so far. Tunyon is he was leading the team in receptions going into last week. I'd have to check if that's still the case. Green Bay's got to play to their strengths. They're 4-6. Backs are against the wall, but Aaron Rodgers said they're not dead. I'm a Bears fan, by the way, so I am strictly analyzing this for fantasy football value. But as you can tell, I'm not biased. I'm not going to leave somebody out of a fantasy football analysis live stream just because I don't like the team. So, so Watson had increased usage, and I think it's safe to say he earned another shot at that 84% of snaps usage level once again. Even if it's not up there, 70%, 60-something%. If he's in there for more than half the snaps, and he's able to get that breakaway speed. He's averaging a little over 3 yards of separation per route. It's something we have to like. Last one here, folks. Meekster, I see you're in this stream as well. Oh, Michael, perfect. We'll get to your question in a moment. Let's see here. Got one more fantasy football waiver wire pickup target that we want to go over, and then I will burn through all those questions, and you guys can keep shooting them at me. Sound good? Good. So, Foster Moreau, this is a direct byproduct of Darren Waller being down for good. We knew Darren Waller was hurt for a bit, obviously, but nonetheless, now we see the IR announcements, and it's not just Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow, the supposed wide receiver too. I'm going to say he's not anymore behind Devontae Adams. Obviously, he can't be anymore because he's hurt, but even before that, other guys were getting more usage for sure. Nonetheless, direct byproduct of Waller being down for good. Still very low ownership rate, below 20% at the time of this live stream. Moreau is averaging almost 6 targets per game in his last 4 weeks, and he got his first score of the season last week. So in general, a pretty optimal scenario, and you're also going to look at game script. You've got a losing team. They're going to throw the ball a lot, yada, yada, yada. So just pass involvement, something I thought was pretty interesting, and I took this off of NFL Fantasy Football. A running back or tight end accounted for 13 of 24 receptions for Las Vegas in Week 10 in that loss against Jeff Saturday and the Indianapolis Colts. So with the Raiders down 2 Pro Bowlers, I'm talking Renfrow and Waller, and each defensive coordinator's focus likely to be centered on Devontae Adams, somebody's got to get the ball. Somebody has to get the ball. Especially when you talk about a team that is 2-7 in the Raiders. They're getting more banged up by the minute, so we have more and more availability. A bigger piece of that pie is going to go. It's got to go to somebody, and Moreau had a pretty good game last week. 40-plus yards, a touchdown, career best fantasy game in his early career. But yeah, we're dealing with a Raiders team that's 2-7, and game script says if they're going to lose a lot of games down the stretch, and they probably will because of how many injuries they have, we're going to see a throw-heavy game script in the second half of many upcoming games. Big Trev, I see you're in there. Michael, saw you before. Pajama Dust, welcome, everybody. Thank you for jumping into the stream at this late hour. It's 11 o'clock for me. I may or not have a class in a few hours, but we're grinding on fantasy football content. We want to get you prepped and ready for Week 11 as we are 1 week closer to your fantasy football playoffs. Here to do your fantasy football homework for you. We're going to start out at the top of the chat and make our way down, folks, so try to be patient. I'm thorough, but I am efficient, so I will get through these. LBR says, just traded Keenan Allen, Cordero Patterson, Devin Duvernay, and Curtis Samuel for Tyler Lockett, Ezekiel Elliott, and Allen Robinson. Was that a W? So we're timing Allen Robinson here, obviously, with Cooper Kupp going down with, I believe it was a high ankle sprain, and that's very smart of you. He's already owned in over 50% of leagues, so for those of you who have been in this stream for the last few minutes and you're seeing me go over waiver wire pickups, why didn't you go over Allen Robinson? I'm strictly targeting guys who at the time of this stream are owned in less than 50% of leagues. So I want to make sure they're most likely available in your league so you can still pick them up. I'm not here to tell you, oh, you should have got that guy 2 days ago. Sucks to be you, right? Really trying to help you here. So Keenan Allen, Cordero Patterson, Devin Duvernay, and Curtis Samuel for Tyler Lockett, Ezekiel Elliott, and Allen Robinson. Keenan Allen has been hurt, and we really don't have a timetable on when he's going to be back. It's a lingering hamstring injury, and it was only supposed to be a couple of weeks, but here we are 2 months later, so I'm not too mad at you for getting rid of him. Cordero Patterson, we're selling a little low here. He did have a down week, but the week before he did well. Devin Duvernay doesn't get usage, and with Bateman coming back, Andrews possibly coming back pretty soon, even Isaiah Likely, if they get 2 tight end sets going in, obviously it's just a run-heavy team as well with Lamar. Don't hate that for low usage. Curtis Samuel's not going to get as much usage with Terry McLaurin just absolutely going off in that Eagles game where the undefeated Eagles got taken down. I thought that was a trap game. I should have went out and said it publicly. I would have looked a lot smarter. Kind of just quietly thought it to myself, but you guys will have to believe me. Scout's honor. So Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver 2, in a pretty impressive pass offense with Geno Smith. You know, the number 1 corner is likely going to be covering DK Metcalf, especially in the red zone. Lockett, number 2 on the team in red zone targets. Might be number 1 now. It's been fluctuating between him and Metcalf a lot. I'd have to check on that one, so don't trust me on that stat. Ezekiel Elliott, it's going to be kind of a split game with him and Tony Pollard, but with a Dallas team that's been winning so many games, again, game script, they're going to run the ball on the stretch. And Allen Robinson, the impromptu wide receiver 1 with Cooper Kupp down. I like it. You have a guy in Keenan Allen who's hurt and continues to be hurt. Cordero Patterson coming off injury. Algier kind of has been taking away some of his carries, even though it is a high rush frequency over there in Atlanta. if they don't have the ball a whole lot of time possessions down, and sometimes that's the case. Also, sometimes Mariota runs it. So up and down usage there. Patterson's probably the best guy out of that deal because Duvernay doesn't get usage and consistent usage. And Curtis Samuel's not going to see as much usage with how amazing Terry McLaurin's been doing. So I think LBR, I think you did pretty good and you saved a roster spot. Now you can go get somebody else if you want to. You could probably go out and get somebody better than Devin Duvernay or hurt Keenan Allen. Anybody's better than someone who is not playing football at the moment. So let's go with that. To Brian's comment, yeah, good luck on the physiology exam, my guy. We're rooting for each other here. We'll all do well in school. We're just grinding out a little fantasy football. Nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's midnight in some areas of the country. LBR facts, same. Michael Bernardo, would you do ETN for Jamar Chase? I need a wide receiver bad after Cooper Kupp got injured. Yeah, we've got to start talking about situations where, yep, I just lost my blockbuster wide receiver. I mean, imagine if Justin Jefferson were to go down. Knock on freaking wood. We got to go after somebody to fill in. Jamar Chase, the timetable, I believe, is a week or two right now, so I don't hate it, Michael. I'd love to know your record just to see if we're really doing a playoff push or if we're all but clinched and we're trying to keep a good spot or if we got to win out. Would still have Jonathan Taylor, who did great finally played to his worth. Phenomenal. It was about 10 weeks late. Jeff Wilson, who's been getting good usage. Isaiah Pacheco, who I just talked about as a waiver wire pickup. Good on you, Michael. And Rachaad White, who I honestly think is going to take over as well because he's been way more efficient than Leonard Fournette. Fournette's getting hurt here and there. He's a lot older. Rachaad White has been more efficient and can get involved in the pass game. If he can get involved in the pass game a little bit more, standard PPR, I'm all over Rachaad White. I debated putting him on this list. I really did. So ETN for Jamar Chase. Hold on, Michael. I just want to see something with... Got a couple Michaels in the chat. Hope all of you are doing well on this fine... I don't even know what day it is. Wednesday night? Because I know for Jamar's timetable, I know he's going to be out this week. Still the hip. Ready for action in week 12 against the Titans. So this is for Michael Bernardo. Michael B. I got to specify with a couple Michaels in the chat. We're looking at eating it for one more week. It is week 11. Week 12 against the Titans. It's a pretty optimal matchup against a secondary, that has some holes in it. For your running back core, if Jonathan Taylor can do what he just did a few more times, we're good. And he's got a decently easy schedule down the stretch. Jeff Wilson's getting good usage. Pacheco and Rachaad White can kind of fill in as that impromptu running back 2 or flex, depending on the remainder of your lineup, Michael. I say we shoot for it. It looks like Jamar Chase is tracking for week 12, so you're missing 1 week. And if we're looking for a playoff push, I think that's a move we got to take. And then this is from Michael. Do I start Brandon Cooks or Deontay Johnson at flex? This could be a matchup thing, but Nico looks like he's starting to take over as the wide receiver 1, and I'll pop that up here. Because that's always something we want to look at. See, we got Tino in the chat. What's up, Tino? If you're just joining, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and I'm doing some fantasy football homework for you on a night where I should probably be doing other homework, but that's all right. Grinding it out for you guys. Brandon Cooks did not practice Wednesday either. He's got a hip and wrist injury, so we've got to watch that as well, Michael. I mean, if that's the case, we've got our answer, right? Deontay Johnson. Obviously, it is him and George Pickens and Freiermuth with Mr. Chase Claypool being out of Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett had a decent week, starting to grow as that rookie role. So, yeah, Collins, I'm starting to wonder. He was out for a couple weeks, but got more targets than Cooks. Collins might be out too. There's a few scenarios here. I mean, Collins is in. Cooks is out, then we don't question it. They're both in. Okay, Cooks is in, Collins is out. Then we really start to lean Cooks. So those are things we've got to consider for sure. Commander's secondary has been feisty, and that's who the Texans are going up against. So I wouldn't love the Brandon Cooks scenario in general. Michael, even if he plays, we've got a guy who did not practice Wednesday. Now, I'm not too concerned yet, but if he's limited in practice Thursday, not practicing Thursday, if he is even limited in practice going up to Friday or Saturday, that screams he's probably going to be on a snap count. of some sort. He's not going to play the entire game. That reduces his usage. And we've got to remember with Houston, this team loves Dameon Pierce. These are his touches, 24, 18, 27, 19. I have never seen a losing football team that loves to use their running back so much, but why wouldn't you? 4.7 yards a carry. He's going to have a 1,000-yard season and then some as long as he stays healthy. Pretty involved in the passing game from a relative standpoint, 2 to 3 receptions per game. Got to touch on his resume, getting about 5 to 6 yards per reception. So just those little checkdowns in the flat, angle routes, or Texas, depending on if you play Madden, that's what it's called. So really, it's a run-heavy team despite the fact they lose a lot. There's an injury here that we could be dealing with. Even if he plays, he might be limited. And he's got a tough matchup against the Texans. So let's look at the Steelers. They're going up against the Bengals. Pretty stout defense, but it's less options. And I think from a game script perspective, Michael, the Steelers probably lose it. Kenny Pickett's still learning a lot. It's a huge learning curve. So even if they lose by, 30 or 40, I think Deontay Johnson gets enough targets. With Cooks, a world of things could happen. They could lean on Dameon Pierce, which they've been doing all year. Nico Collins could be healthy, and they could lean on him as well. Brandon Cooks could play, and he just gets limited in snap amounts, or Brandon Cooks just doesn't play. So the fact that he is even dealing with an injury right now, we're about to be 3 days away from NFL Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, okay. It's about to be Thursday, so we'll say 3 days away, and he hasn't practiced. It's the first day of practice. Usually the guys get Tuesday off, but that's just something I think that we'll want to monitor, but I am heavily leaning Deontay Johnson. You pass the ball a lot more when you're losing in a football game, and now Cooks has some competition in Collins. He is no longer that decisive wide receiver one, and they love Dameon Pierce, so that's what I go with, Michael. That's your flex spot. Big Trev, what's up? Picking 2 in standard PPR. Rondale Moore, Adam Thielen, Kadarius Toney. Thanks, man. No problem, Trev. Let's look here. Kadarius Toney going up against the Chargers secondary. They're starting to shore up, but they really haven't looked great. That's going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion. Justin Herbert doesn't have a whole lot of weapons, but he's going up against a Chiefs team that has a lot more passing touchdowns per game than anybody. Kadarius Toney finally started to get used, and we saw what he could do in the open field on that Chiefs team, especially with open field blocking. I mean, his speed in the open field in general is crazy, but once you get blocking for him, you get a guy like Travis Kelce out in front of him, it's curtains. Adam Thielen, that wide receiver, too. It's going to be an interesting game between the Vikings and the Cowboys. And then Rondale Moore going up against the 49ers. I almost always call wide receivers dead in the water when they go up against the 49ers, Trav, and here's why. A couple reasons, actually, but pass yards allowed per game. Just looking at some simple context with these different teams. San Fran, this total went up because they did recently play the Chiefs. They were top 3 for the majority of the season. So we've got a secondary in the 49ers that allows 198 yards per game, top 10 in the league. Pretty solid, right? That's what Rondale Moore is going up against. This is for Big Trev, picking 2 out of these 3 for his standard PPR league. Thanks for asking the question, by the way. So Rondale Moore is the wide receiver 2, right? I do like Rondale Moore. I don't think we should be dropping him or anything. I don't think it's a great matchup. He's going up against a tough secondary. And we also have the fact that Kyler Murray might not play. Colt McCoy might be in there right now. It's still questionable. From what I saw with Kyler Murray, I can recheck that. This morning, Kyler Murray was questionable. We have no clue what's going to happen if all of a sudden Colt McCoy just comes in. Yeah, I still have questionable. Colt McCoy's questionable, too. We might see Trace McSorley out of Penn State. That would be interesting. So because of Rondale Moore's inoptimal matchup and the fact that the quarterback might be out, we want to monitor it. I like Kadarius Toney against that Chargers defense. He had a breakout week in comparison to the last few weeks. He got some more snaps if we look at that. I'll pull this up on the screen for you guys. Not a crazy amount of snaps yet, right? Only 28. Was lightly used, then obviously was out for that month and a half. Gets dealt from a run-heavy team in the Giants to pretty much the exact opposite in the Chiefs, really. Third guy, Adam Thielen, wide receiver 2 option against the Cowboys. I'm probably in between sitting Thielen and Rondale. I'm feeling pretty good about Kadarius Toney as long as he gets usage. Rondale Moore against that secondary, we're going to have to hope he gets high volume because I think it's going to be really tough against the 49ers secondary for the most part. Triple checking everything. Crossing my T's and dotting my I's for you. Wrong tab. Yeah, the secondary is pretty healthy right now. See, Emmanuel Mosley's still out. Jason Verrett, but everybody else is in there. Hufanga's in there. Ward is in there. Jimmy Ward is in there as well. Yeah, so I don't know, because Rondo Moore does get more usage, right? But I think Adam Thielen and Kadarius Toney have better matchups. If I were to pick Rondo Moore over, I would either bench Rondo Moore. Or maybe Adam Thielen, because he is that second option. I know there's going to be a lot of focus on Justin Jefferson, but I do think that the Cowboys are going to come out in zone. They're going to try and force the Vikings wide receiving core to just find holes in that zone. I doubt they double up or man up on anybody, especially with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Adam Thielen out there. Hawkinson's been taking a decent amount of the targets. So I'd either bench Rondale or Thielen. But I'm thinking Rondale. That's a pretty tough matchup. And we possibly have the Cardinals putting Kyler Murray, Colt McCoy, or Trace McSorley in, which, I mean, then it's just a run-heavy scheme if we're down to our third-string quarterback. That's typically what will happen. And the Cardinals might believe they can do that against that 49ers team, although their front seven is tough. They might not have a choice if Trace McSorley just, I don't know, hasn't played football in almost 2 years. I think he was on the Ravens before. Pajama Dust, what's up, man? Bapjap, welcome back to the stream, man. Good to see you. Corey, is it worth it to keep Olave? Maybe I'm just overthinking that he should be producing more than what we are seeing. Yeah, he has had a down week or two. If we look at Chris Olave. And then I'm going to pull up this as well. Short answer, I wouldn't panic about Olave. I still think he's one of the front runners for Rookie of the Year. I think Kenneth Walker III is running away with it right now, even though he came in later. Dameon Pierce has to be up there too, so I wouldn't say running away with it. So Bapjap, this is for you. Depending on the remainder of your team, right? If you want to use him as a trading piece, I think you can get a decent amount for him, but I would never sell low. So wait till he has an up week. Maybe you have to wait another week or two on him. Saints playing the Rams this week. Pretty stout secondary for the most part. He'd line up with Ramsey if healthy. So, I know what you're saying here, but we still, at the end of the day, did get 10.2, 13.1. He's not touchdown reliant. Olave is not to get in the double digits, which is what I like about him. I guess you'd say he had his worst week because he had 3 receptions on 5 targets for 40 yards. He's never scored less than 7 points. I still think that Olave has a very high floor. And remember, Michael Thomas is out for pretty much, I think it's the season with the broken toe. So I know it is it's underwhelming to see Chris Olave, a guy who performed outside of the top 30 wide receivers against a Pittsburgh team that's really not good. Pittsburgh is very disruptive, and that stat with when TJ Watt plays, they have a much better record, just baffles me. I would ride it out with Olave, but if you want to sell him off, you got to wait for him to have a better week because his value is going to plummet when you sell him after his worst week yet this year. So wait for Olave to have a good week and then analyze it a little more if you want to sell him. Otherwise, I'm riding it out with Olave. I mean, he's the best option on a team that has Jarvis Landry down right now and Michael Thomas down for the year. So it's pretty much Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson, a tight end that I really like for depth teams as well. Teams that need depth. Dynasty leagues, of course. If you need a quick tight end, pick up Juwan Johnson's still out there. So I'd ride it out with Olave personally, Babjet, but if you want to sell him off, wait till he has a better week. Wait for that value to spike. No way an advertisement just turned on. There we go. Brian, lots of injuries around the league right now. My opponent has Kyler Murray, questionable, and Cooper Kupp, who's out, hoping for a victory here. Sometimes you draw those, right, Brian? I'm definitely going to go 0-4 this week for saying this, but I went 4-0 last week because I faced 4 bottom tier teams in my league. I think they were all in the bottom 3 of every league, which was super weird. 2 weeks before, I faced like 3 out of my 4 matchups were against the top team in the league, so that was rough. So the universe kind of evened out there. Sometimes that's how you get it, Brian. And when you encounter injuries, you want to go after these waiver wire pickups. You want to make these deals, and you want to ask yourself, like the Cooper Kupp scenario, who's the next man up? I was all about hating on Allen Robinson because he wasn't getting the usage I thought he was. Catch rate's been low. Hasn't been that breakout wide receiver, too, that everybody thought he was going to be in that high-flying Rams offense that has since gone extinct. Now I'm all for picking up Allen Robinson because those targets have to go somewhere. The Rams are losing a lot of football games, and they've got to throw heavy in the second half of most games. So, yep, we got to take advantage of those things, Brian. Hopefully you get the victory this week. LBR, I have Marquise on my bench. If he plays, then I don't need to pick anybody else up. But if he's still out, I picked up Christian Watson, even though I have Lazard. Watson is a wild card right now, LBR. I'm kind of looking at him as a bench sit, but I wouldn't hate people for starting him. The tough thing is they play on Thursday. The Packers do. They play tomorrow against the Titans. Pretty vulnerable secondary for the most part. Tannehill's back, and the offense looks a little bit better than with Malik Willis, who's obviously just still learning. Had a lot of run-heavy packages with him. They were trying to use his mobility a little bit more, was Matt Vrabel. So Christian Watson's got the upside, though. I went over what I like about him before. Sheer size, the breakaway speed, 5.7 yards of cushion per play against the Dallas Cowboys last week. They were respecting his speed, and he still broke free for 3 touchdowns. They're pressing up on him a little bit more, but then that first touchdown happened. They gave him a lot more room, and then he was just able to slice and dice that defense. So I like the Christian Watson move. I'm not sure I'd start them both because I'm not too confident in that Packers pass offense, LBR, but I like the fact that you took Christian Watson off waivers before other people could. And you probably pulled that move where it was a noon game. Noon? It's 3:25. You pulled him before the Sunday Night Football game and the Monday Night Football game, so you probably swapped him out for somebody, right? You took somebody off your roster who was playing on Sunday or Monday night. So that's smart. What's up, Tino? Hope you're doing well. Michael, we're getting context in that situation. I'm 6-4, tied for a wild card spot, so we're right on that cusp, right? My wide receiver 1 right now is T. Higgins, so struggling there, but I have Kelsey. Kelsey is a wide receiver 1. So Michael, you were talking about ETN for Jamar Chase, so you're just trying to hit that home run. You've got to understand you'll then have Chase and Higgins, but usually those two can produce together. Sometimes all 3 produce, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, when that passing offense is firing on all cylinders to Cincinnati. So I see you, Michael. I'm still cool with it. LBR in a 10-man PPR, I went 0-3 the first weeks of fantasy. Now I'm 6-4. Look at the comeback, man. 6 of your last 7. My team after the trade is Pat Mahomes, Josh Jacobs, Jacoby Myers. That's a really good pickup. Even though there's indecisiveness in New England, Jacoby Myers has been making some nice catches. Been getting plenty of targets as well. More than Devontae Parker, who still battles injuries here and there. I think Jacoby Myers is just that more explosive option. Which is crazy because he wasn't getting a lot of touchdowns until like last year, but very involved in that offense. And he doesn't need touchdowns, a couple deep plays, and he's got you double digits, and that's all you really need in fantasy, to be honest. So, Allen Lazard, Kyle Pitts, Allen Robinson, very smart pickup. Dan Carlson, I cannot count on my hand, LBR, how many times Dan Carlson has gotten me like 17 points. Phenomenal kicker. Patriots defense. They've got some tough games coming up, but Patriots defense I like. That AFC East, man. A, who would have thought the Patriots were last? Maybe some people. B, they've all got winning records. It's pretty crazy. Mike said, thanks, brother. No problem, man. LBR, my bench is Kirk Cousins. Kirk's a very solid backup. I was on another podcast earlier today called Across Enemy Lines that I do with my friend who's a Packer fan. We kind of just jar over different rivalries and stuff. We talked about Crest versus Colgate, the toothpaste today. And one thing we talked about was Kirk Cousins. We do a quarterback roulette. We spun it. It landed on Kirk. We give him a grade. We talk about the goods and bads. Talk about expectations. So I gave him a pretty good grade, but I did say that Kirk Cousins is a product of his environment. Doesn't really matter what I think of him. He's going to produce. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Adam Thielen. He's got TJ Hawkinson, a top 5 tight end right now. He's got Delvin Cook, who's pretty involved in the pass game, but also conversely, because he is so good in the run, he's averaging 5 yards a carry. It makes the play action packages a lot more appealing. People can't sell out on Justin Jefferson. They'll pay for it on the ground. That's what they've been doing. So I like Kirk Cousins a lot. Ezekiel Elliott, we're talking about a possible handing of the baton off between Zeke and Tony Pollard, so watch out for that. Obviously, injury bearing, right? Injury barring. Rashad White, I like the move. Another handing the baton off because Mr. Leonard Fournette has not been very efficient or healthy. As of late, Tyler Lockett, Devontae Smith had a pretty good day on his birthday as well. A.J. Brown didn't do too well, but he got hurt mid-game. Christian Watson, good pickup. Gerald Everett. I'm a fan of you picking up anybody in that Chargers wide receiving core because A, Herbert throws it to everyone, great at spreading the ball out, and B, everyone's hurt. Marquise Brown, waiting on him, and Darren Waller, IR spot. Okay. LBR. Okay, we were just analyzing your trade, just making sure you didn't have any lingering questions. Michael said, bet. Thanks, brother. Anytime, man. Anytime you have any questions, just hop on here and ask me. Babjap, LBR, you should drop Waller. I've been streaming different tight ends each week, unfortunately. Foster Moreau is one I would definitely be streaking for you guys. You know, had 14 points last week, I believe. Filling in for Waller, and he's on an offense that A, is running out of weapons to use, so by default, he is going to get targets, and B, loses a lot of games, so they're going to have to go pass heavy in the second half. They're 2-7 and getting more hurt, so match made in heaven from a fantasy perspective. If you're a Raiders fan, I'm sorry. I bet money on the Raiders to take their division in the offseason, and I look like an idiot now. But they made the playoffs last year, got what I believed to be the best receiver in football in Devontae Adams. I thought it made sense. But yeah, I would drop Waller. You could have somebody else in the IR spot who's actually going to come back. Heather. That's a bot. Okay. Tough situation, says Big Trev. Other guys I have are Gallup and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Okay, let's go back, Trev. Michael Gallup, I'm not big on. Been using a lot more of CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. That's like the wide receiver 2 for Dak Prescott. Yeah. Donovan Peoples-Jones I kind of like. I'm not going to lie to you. Not against the Bills, though. It's just about to check his matchup. 4 straight weeks where he scored in the double digits for fantasy football standard PPR format. So, and you are in PPR, Trev. Usually I would like DPJ. We've just got some tough matchups on our slate. Eric said, I'll Zoom with you, Heather. Let's all Zoom. Oh, okay. On the real, though, do you guys know how to get rid of bots in chat? I'm still about 2 months into streaming. I'm trying it right now. I'm not sure how to do it. So, if anybody knows how to get rid of bots in chat, I would greatly appreciate that. Brian said, with your advice, I started Fields in one big. Ride the Fields train. Keep riding it. He's going up against Atlanta this week. And one big. Looks like Jalen Hurts will be riding the bench again this week. Fields has the easier matchup, but Hurts is facing the Colts. Fields does have the easier matchup. Hurts going up against the Colts. The Colts have a pretty stout defense, despite the fact that they kind of suck this year and don't have an offensive identity to save their life. They've thrown the ball 50 times. They run the ball nearly 50 times. They're just trying everything. Throwing things at the wall and hoping they stick. So, Brian, I'd keep going with Fields right now. He's got a stretch of easy matchups down the road. He's going to play teams like the Jets and the Bills, and then I would not be starting Justin Fields. But right now, let's enjoy the easy matchups, productivity. Justin Fields is QB4 right now, so I'm big on that. Heather with the Zoom span. Yeah, if you guys know how I can... Heather, I need to get you out of this chat. We can't be Zooming people. This is... Yeah, not the place for that, but that's okay. Max is trolling. Yeah, I don't know how to get... I don't know how to do that. That's all right. Any other questions you guys have for me? I kind of just filed through those questions pretty quickly. I can go back to Trev here. Gallup and DPJ. We can look at the Cowboys situation. I'll tell you why I don't really like Michael Gallup. Against the Vikings secondary, it might be something we'll want to explore, so I'm not going to completely dismiss it. If we look right here, Gallup, I mean, he's up there, right? He got 7 targets before 6 then, but I do see Dalton Schultz is more of a priority, and CeeDee Lamb's just going to get that on average. What is that? Roughly 10 a game, 28 through 3 weeks, so a little over 9 targets per game. He's going to be that ball hawk, right? Noah Brown here and there, but it's really CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and then Michael Gallup. Third option on a team that wins a lot of football games and will likely resort to the run in the back half of games. Not a big fan of Michael Gallup. BabJap says, back to the real issues. Just dismiss the bot. A.J. Brown is out. Got a family league that's stingy with trades. Is Christian Watson a decent pickup for a look? Yeah, Christian Watson's great, man. I was saying this before. Over 3 yards of separation per route. That's pretty dang good. He was getting 5.7 yards of cushion. So the corner was laying off by about 6 yards every play on average against Dallas. So what happened was they were pressing him early on. He went deep on the post route. Got whatever that long touchdown was to begin. Rodgers goes bananas because he was finally looking for somebody who he can throw the home run play to, right? Throw it on the field to. Take the deep shot with, however you want to phrase it. And then Dallas started giving him a ton of cushion. So they just started running him on slants and crosses and all that good stuff. And he thrived there too. So Christian Watson, I think, earned the trust of a quarterback who's just looking for answers right now, who's desperate for answers, and who is going to use what he thinks is an answer. I would say 3 touchdowns is an answer for sure, over 100 receiving yards, and 32 points in a game should be an answer for you as well. I hate chasing points, okay? So if somebody has a really good week, we've got to justify why. I can justify this one. Christian Watson is getting more usage. Christian Watson just earned the trust from a quarterback who has his back against the wall in a 4-6 team that needs to start winning football games. And plain and simple, the Packers have been losing more games than they've been winning, so if they do start losing again, they abandon the run and they will go throw heavy the second half. Christian Watson, again, gets targets because he's getting more snaps now. He was in 84% of snaps last game, more than he's ever had before. So he's going to get that playing time. So I like it a lot, BabJap. Let's go with it. Yeah, A.J. Brown, the injury, not something we want to see. Injuries are killing everybody right now. Obviously, Waller out, Kupp out, Kyler Murray possibly out again. Colt McCoy, the GOAT, out. Sorry, I'm trolling. I'm sorry. But, yeah, Khalil Herbert might be out. Khalil Herbert is on the IR. That's what I thought. Okay, that's not good. He's heavily owned, so that's a drop, everybody. Just so many injuries, so we've got to survive and adapt. I know with the Cooper Kupp situation, big fan of Big Ben over there in the wide receiving core, and then Tyler Higbee, he's already picked up by a lot. Allen Robinson, you're probably a little late to the train if we get to that point. Brian, I am dumping on James Conner, but he seems to produce every time he plays. Guess he's my running back too with McCaffrey. And McCaffrey's interesting because, although that's not really what this is about. Elijah Mitchell got a decent amount of targets, but touches, excuse me. He had more than McCaffrey. It was 19-18 in favor of Mitchell, despite the fact McCaffrey was in for like more snaps. It was a 2-to-1 ratio between the two. Carolina never had an Elijah Mitchell or a decent running back to kind of sub in for Christian McCaffrey. They didn't understand what load management was. He'd come back from an ACL or some type of knee injury, and they'd be like, 30 touches for you, 30 touches for you again, 30 touches for you again. They'd overwork him, and then he'd get hurt again. So that's an aside, but I did a short on that, on why I don't think fantasy owners should panic about Christian McCaffrey, even though Elijah Mitchell was the more efficient back in Week 10. So Brian with James Conner. James Conner is not efficient, Brian. He's very run-reliant. I might take James Conner this week. It's not the best matchup against the 49ers front seven, but the fact of the matter is Kyler Murray might be out. Colt McCoy might be out. If you're down to your third-string quarterback, I doubt they're throwing it over 30 times. If they are, I question their game plan, but that is Cliff Kingsbury for you. If we look here, if you're just joining the stream, welcome. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes, and I'm doing some late-night fantasy football homework for you ahead of Week 11 here on this wonderful Wednesday night. So make sure that you leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. So close to 250 subscribers. Made the joke earlier. I would love to tell my family at the Thanksgiving table, hey, I have 250 people listening to me do this. So there is a decent reason I'm on my computer for a few hours out of the week, but got to keep that work-life balance as well. So James Conner, if I have the screen up, Usage, not an issue at all. Availability kind of was one with the 3 weeks. Eno did well, but not well enough, obviously, as Connor was the workhorse. And then Conte Ingram coming in there because Eno's down. Obviously, the issue with James Conner. So the 3 aspects I like to talk about if it's your first time on the stream. Brian, I know it's not yours, but just prefacing for everybody else. Availability, opportunity, and productivity. Availability, are they healthy? James Conner, mostly. Opportunity, are they getting the usage that we want them to get? If you're looking at James Conner, I would answer that with a resounding yes. Productivity, he got bailed out here. I mean, we were 2 touchdowns away, and he gets used a lot in the red zone, so that's just kind of how it works. 4.7. Sorry, I'm doing math real quick. 11.6. Yep. We were 2 touchdowns off of him scoring 11.6 points on 24 touches. That is just the opposite of efficient. And that isn't what happens with James Conner. Through 7 starts, he's got 82, well, just games in general. He's got 82 touches on the ground and 22 through the air. So we're looking at an average of, in 7 games, about 104. 14, 15 touches a game. And if he's not efficient, if he's running at, anytime I'm in the 3s and we have a big sample size, I'm a little scared because A, they might lose their job, and B, they're just not getting the job done. They're not breaking it free for those big runs. Look at his longs as well. He doesn't have any explosive plays to really back the defense off at all. 14, 17, 10. There's these games where he has, like this one, 15 total touches, and his longest play was 11 through the air. No play over 21 yards. He's just not going to break free. James Conner's not fast. He's more of a bruiser. So he's not very productive. However, Brian, he is going up against the 49ers in a game where Arizona might not have their quarterback. I'll tell you what, Brian, if Trace McSorley is in there, I would start James Conner off of sheer usage just because we know he's going to be relied upon. Even if James Conner doesn't get the ball on the ground as much as we want him to, he's going to get those checkdowns through the air as well. Because I don't think Trace McSorley is going to be bombing the ball on the field. Maybe he will, and I'll be wrong, and it'll be the backup story of the century. But more times than not, we're going to see run-heavy schemes, and we're going to see check-down reliance quarterbacks when we go deep into the depth chart. So, yeah, I guess he is your running back, too, with McCaffrey right now. Long-term, you could package him with, a wide receiver, too, and go ahead and try and get a David Montgomery. Montgomery has high appeal now because Khalil Herbert, although he was more productive, A, David Montgomery isn't bad, but B, Khalil Herbert's on the IR now, so it's going to be all David Montgomery on the ground for a team that runs the ball more than anybody else. So we'll see some more read option with Justin Fields and David Montgomery, a little wildcat here and there. So Brian also saying Jamal Williams is questionable. Mostert has a bye. Herbert is on IR and possibly out for the season. Might drop Herbert for Watson, who is out there for me too in free agency. Yeah, I would drop Khalil Herbert. Brian, even if he comes back, it's probably not going to be till after your playoffs. Depending on your league format. What if he comes back week 17 or 18? You're like, well, I'm done. So that's great. The championship's going on and I'm playing for third, or I'm playing for fifth. It's too late. We don't want guys who are coming back in that last week or two. Or maybe you're in a format where, I don't know how your league is formatted. Some leagues, it's like an 8-team or a 10-team league. 4 make it. And it's 2 weeks for each playoff round. So like week 14 and 15 and then 16 and 17. I don't know what your situation is. But the last thing we want to do if our team isn't too deep and if Herbert was really a contributing factor and can be taken up by somebody more productive is go, well, I have him at the end if everything works out. When in reality, you could have replaced him with somebody else who could have put up some points for you while you waited for Herbert to get healthy. Pacheco might be a good one, Brian. Big thing with Kansas City is they only run the ball 36% of the time. So Isaiah Pacheco might not be the answer if you're looking for a now because they don't run the ball a whole lot, but he did have more usage than he's had ever before. Was in for more than 50% of snaps. Took the job from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so we've got some upside there. He just needs to be more involved in the pass game for me to really be sold on him in standard PPR. Had an efficient day, 16 rushes for 82 yards. I'll take over 5 yards to carry. Most teams will. Chiefs especially, where running is not too much of an emphasis, but 8.2 points don't really excite me. So maybe Pacheco, but that's pretty deep. Got somebody else in the chat here. Would you trade Travis Etienne and Jamar Chase for Nick Chubb, Mike Williams, and Brandon Ayuk? Other wide receivers we can replace for Mike and Ayuk are Watson and Cortland Sutton. Sutton's starting to take off a little bit more. Christian Watson's the hot topic, right? And I've said this a couple times already in the stream. If you just jumped in, that's fine. Christian Watson's got the speed. He's got the stature. He's 5'6". 5.7 yards of cushion given from the Dallas Cowboys corners. They started to respect him after that first touchdown. Didn't matter. Out in the open field, when you give that man space, unless you press him hard, get him jammed between a few people in his zone, he's going to cut you up. He just, availability and obviously his hands, the drops were big issues. So he'll get, a more significant role. So ETN and Jamar Chase for Chubb. Mike Williams, who might be back this week. He's starting to turn into Keenan Allen. It's a lingering issue and a lingering injury, and they're kind of just waiting on him. Brandon Ayuk has been a pretty significant part of that offense. Not week in and week out, but pretty close. Jump into there real quick to see what we're working with Ayuk and usage. Yeah, I like that. 72% catch rate, so very reliable for Jimmy G. ETN and Chase. You've got to keep in mind. I just lost Chase too. Right. Well, Chase is out for one more week. Babchep, you're good. You're not spamming. I'll get to you in just a moment. Would you trade ETN and Chase for Chubb, Mike Williams? And I mean, Nick Chubb, I'd put a lot of packages together to get that guy in as a running back. It's high usage because it is a run-heavy offense in Cleveland, and he's so extremely productive. He's up in the hemisphere. He's up in the area of like 6 yards per carry, I believe. Still, I mean, that is ridiculous. That's where Khalil Herbert was before he got hurt. 5.7 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns. I'd put together a lot of different trade packages for him. Oh, just lost Cup. I was like, what are you talking about? That's okay. Yeah, I think for Nick Chubb, you're getting ETN and then some, obviously. Yes, Jamar Chase comes back next week, so that adds value for your opponent, but Mike Williams is phenomenal when he's in, and obviously if someone can just stay healthy, with Keenan Allen continuously being out, it's literally just been Joshua Palmer. Everybody else has been hurt. So, other than Austin Eckler as well. And then you have a key contributor in Ayuk. Yeah, I would do that. ETN and Chase, you get the best running back in the league in Nick Chubb. Mike Williams is a top 20 wide receiver when healthy. And then Brandon Ayuk, who's been a significant contributor in San Francisco as well. You get some wide receiver depth. And they're healthy now. You don't have to wait a week for them like you would Chase, where every week is critical as your playoffs approach. Watson and Sutton. I'd go Sutton for a higher floor, Watson for a higher ceiling. We just saw how explosive he was. And the Packers, I talked about this before, we want to use real-life context with fantasy football as well, not just what were their numbers, but Packers are 4 and 6. Their backs are against the wall. Aaron Rodgers is looking for an answer. I think he might think I can English. He may think that he has found an answer in Christian Watson. So I think at the very least he's going to get some targets in this upcoming week, tomorrow against the Titans. So I like Watson for the higher ceiling, Sutton for the lower floor. The trade with ETN and Chase for Chubb, Williams, and Ayuk straight up is good for you. I think you get benefit out of it. And they get ETN, who's been a stud, and Chase, who comes back in a week. So good mutual trade. Babjap, looking forward to doing a draft prep video. I am too, man. I can't wait to start doing some draft simulations. I'm going to look at the rookies, too. Phenomenal wide receiver class coming out for the 2023 draft, which is going to be in about 5 months in April. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing draft previews for that, fantasy value, how they're performing in college, and how we can kind of translate that to the NFL. We're going to look at some gems and some non-Power 5 schools. Obviously, we'll look at the guys from Ohio State, from your Clemson, from your Alabama, from your Tennessee, which has really become a phenomenal football program despite the couple of losses. So, yeah, in my 10-team league, someone picked Jonathan Taylor with the first pick, and I just missed out on him in free agency last week. Yeah. How the turns have tabled, right? That's an offense. That is an office reference. Please don't hate me. Babchap, is Pickens worth a flex? Sorry to spam. Yeah, again, don't worry about it. Pickens is definitely worth a flex. Kenny Pickett That's a tongue twister. Pickens was showing upside. Had his best week yet last week. And it's also, I love to talk about this, Babjap. It's game script. This is a team that loses a lot. You're not going to run the ball a ton when you're down 10, 14, 17, 21 points, right? The Steelers, they're not going to have that over 500 season that Mike Tomlin has enjoyed in his era in Pittsburgh. Reality of that is, when you're down a lot, you've got to throw the ball a lot. Chase Claypool out of that organization over to the Bears in that trade. So it's Pickens, Johnson, and Freiermuth. And if we look at usage here, Babjap, let's not get recency bias. It was one bad week. I'm good with 10 targets, 9 targets, 5 there. Catch rate could be better. Doesn't have a touchdown, but he doesn't really need it to have double-digit performances just due to sheer usage. It's been Johnson, then Freiermuth, and then Pickens, right? So I'm talking about the value of Deontay Johnson. That's a solid option. Freiermuth is a solid option. Pickens, right? He's been that third option. He does have the 1 touchdown, catch rate a little bit better, but we're kind of splitting hairs here. I think Pickens still deserves a look. I would put him in on the bench, let him play one more week, and just kind of see if we can get some more consistent usage out of him. Because the one thing with Pittsburgh, right? They're going to throw the ball a lot because they are a losing team, but they lose in time of possession almost every single game. It's one of the reasons they're horrible. They give up these long drives, and the offense doesn't get the ball in their hands. I think Pickens is a good look. He's had some nice plays as of late. I don't think he's a have one good play in the game and then never see him again type of guy. I think he can be a consistent producer. I think he's that wide receiver 2 behind Deontay Johnson right now, and then it goes Freiermuth with the tight end position, even though he's been getting more usage. So, yeah. I think he's worth a flex Babjap. Depending on your league size, like 12 team, I would say definitely. 10, you could probably get better. And this is for NX Riga. I have Leonard Fournette, James Conner, Travis Etienne, Raheem Mostert, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Drake London, and Deontay Johnson. 4 and 6. Okay, so we're looking for a run, right? We're looking to run the table. Maybe not run the table. We want to win. We want to win 4 of our next 5. We want to be 8 and 7. And then back to that deal. So, yeah, you're really looking for that home run hitter, right? You want Nick Chubb, and he would join Mostert, Connor. Obviously, you're taking a hit with giving up ETN, but it's a clear upgrade, ETN for Chubb, and then you just give up a little bit in the wide receiver category, but you're deeper there. McLaurin's been going off. Jamar will be back soon. You're giving him up, obviously. Drake London. I don't love Drake London's situation, if I'm being honest. Deontay Johnson, obviously, as we just looked at, getting those targets. Cadillac, welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying. Should I try Debo for Godwin? Yeah, if you can get him. Debo hasn't been getting used a whole lot. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, 2 of the most reliable, I would say the most reliable wide receiver tandem right now because of health. I say it week in and week out. He was mainly lined up against Kobe Bryant in the slot. Really cool name, by the way. And the Seahawks allow a decent amount of points in the slot. So Godwin was able to capitalize. These guys are consistently able to excel just in terms of target usage. The catch rate's up in the mid-60s. They're not too touchdown reliant. They're going to get the volume they need. Russell Gage has been out, so they've been getting more. Kate Otten was getting more involved. We've seen a little more of Scotty Miller, had the 1-8 target game. So Godwin, as opposed to Debo, who, it's been Brandon Ayuk as of late, and then when you have 2 guys who are producing out of the backfield, and Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey, you're kind of in a tough spot. So Cadillac, I think you'd be upgrading with Godwin, but they might ask you to throw in a depth piece, like the worst person on your team for Debo, which that's fair. If they ask for a significant guy who you might consider starting relatively soon with Debo, don't do it. It's not that much of a jump. Luka Magic, start 1, stash 1, half PPR. We've got Tyler Conklin, Robert Tonyan, Logan Thomas, and McBride. Okay. Let's go Robert Tonyan. I was saying this before. He was leading the Packers in receptions. He's all reliable right now, whether Christian Watson had a great week or not. Yeah, he still is. Nobody has more receptions. This is for Luka. Love the name, by the way. Nobody has more receptions on this team than Robert Tonyan. by 6. Best catch rate, too, so that kind of helps, right? Doesn't lead the league in targets, team in targets, but he does lead the team in catch rate. All reliable, over 300 yards right now. He's got a touchdown. Robert Tonyan not getting as many targets as I'd like him to get. We're probably going to see more of the Christian Watson show coming up. There's a more balanced running attack, too. Because of Tanyan's productivity, I like it a lot. Breece Hall obviously has been hurt for a couple weeks. We're not going to see as much of a run-heavy scheme. With that being said, we're not going to see Zach Wilson throw the ball 50 times consistently, at least for the sake of the Jets. I sure hope not. I would go Conklin and Tonyan. Logan Thomas, I still think it's the Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin show. Antonio Gibson's been robbing Logan Thomas of a few receptions per game here as well. McBride, Just closing that tab. I see what you're saying with Ertz being out. We do have, if we're just streaming Luka, we do have a matchup against the 49ers this week that I'm not in love with. I was talking to somebody earlier about Rondale Moore, not in love with that either. They allow the 8th least amount of receiving yards per game, and it was a lot better. The number was lower than that before they played the Chiefs. So I'm going to go Conklin and Tonyan, your first two. Nervous with Williams. I feel like he's prone to get hurt again. Jamal Williams? He's got 9 touchdowns on the ground, which is up there with Nick Chubb, who's got 11. So I like his productivity, and even with DeAndre Swift in right now, Jamal Williams has been getting more snaps. So I'm kind of big on that, not going to lie. Brian, looking at my draft review yesterday, I drafted James Conner, and the next guy drafted Nick Chubb. Oh, that's okay. Brian, we know. You said it was your first year in fantasy. Hindsight, right? What if Conner had a great year? But we knew going into this year that James Conner wasn't a very productive back if you look at last year. And it's tough. Here's what I'm going to talk about a lot in the offseason. I will be doing plenty of content, if not more, in the offseason. Live streams, archive videos, shorts, instructional stuff, all that good stuff. We cannot rely on stats from last year all the time. Myles Gaskin, perfect example. He was the running back 1 for the Miami Dolphins. They were trying a little bit out with Duke Johnson as well. Now he is 4th on the depth chart. So you can't always do that. James Conner had less than 4 yards of carry last year. I was concerned with him because he was very touchdown reliant, so his value was a lot higher. So, Brian, you probably saw projected fantasy points, or you saw 2021 fantasy points, and you're like, holy crap. But he had so many touchdowns to skew his data, so that's why. He wasn't very efficient. Another story last week, 3.3 yards of carry for James Conner. Had 2 touchdowns. Without those 2 touchdowns, he's not crap. Cadillac, I'm 7-3, so I'm not sure if I should hold on to Debo or trade him for a safer player in the playoffs. Yeah, you're going to be in the playoffs as long as you win 1 or 2 more. Nice job getting to 7-3, by the way, Cadillac. Congratulations to you. I think Ayuk's a little more reliable, but Debo is also going to get involved in the run game. But will he now? Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey, 37 touches between the 2 players. I think Ayuk, strictly in the passing game, he's been a little more involved as of late. Cadillac, you can sit and wait a little bit. You've probably got a pretty good team if you're 7-3. You could test this out going into the playoffs, but I'd be okay with going after Ayuk. Oh, wait, hold on to Debo. Oh, you were trading him for Godwin. I'd be okay with going to Godwin. Personally, because he's getting more targets. Him and Mike Evans are consistently involved. They've got some pretty vulnerable secondary matchups coming up, so I'm okay with that. Mr. Curly Wolf, Schultz or Freiermuth, and Fields or Dak this week. Brother, thanks so much. PPR. Brian, you're all good. I picked Najee right before Saquon. I'm a fool. You're not a fool. Okay. Saquon Barkley has been injury prone for the last couple of years and was inefficient last year. Mr. Curly Wolf, I will come in on your defense. Now coming on Brian's too. Brian was newer. I was not high on Saquon. I vowed to not take Saquon or CMC coming into this year because I wanted to see consistent, healthy years out of both of them. Mike Williams, worried about him getting hurt again. Yeah. You could go after a more consistently healthy wide receiver. Go after their wide receiver 2 or their flex, man, instead of Mike Williams if you're worried about that because he has been hurt the last couple of weeks. So Schultz or Freiermuth. Dak Prescott's been a big fan of Dalton Schultz, and they go up against a pretty vulnerable secondary in the Vikings this week. And Freiermuth's going up against the Bengals. It's a pretty solid secondary. They're not allowing as many yards through the air. And we just talk about a time of possession standpoint. Pittsburgh loses the ball a lot. So I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz, the basically wide receiver too. I was looking at him before. He's getting more targets than Michael Gallup, so it's pretty much the pecking order is CeeDee Lamb and then Dalton Schultz. Justin Fields or Dak Prescott this week. With how Justin Fields has been doing on the ground, the design runs, I can't go against him. He's going up against Atlanta. He's got some matchups coming up in the future, Mr. Curly Wolf, against the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets. I'm not starting Justin Fields for that. I'll start him against the Atlanta Falcons. Dak's got a decent matchup against the Vikings, but he's not running as much as Justin Fields. Fields has over 500 rushing yards in the last 5 games combined. It's like 550 something or something in that range. More than any other quarterback. He's just a great fantasy quarterback right now, and you know it. With rushing yards, it's 0.1 per rushing yard. It's 0.04 for passing yards in most fantasy football formats. So Fields is going to get you more bang for your buck, and he has an optimal matchup. So I'm going Dalton Schultz and then Justin Fields. Jason says, what's up, Armchair? Hollywood Brown or Joshua Palmer this week? Hope you're doing well, Jason. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, Hollywood Brown going up against one of the toughest secondaries in the league in the San Francisco 49ers. A healthy secondary, too. Both wards are in. And then Joshua Palmer, one of the only classified healthy pass catchers in that offense right now. Mike Williams is questionable. Keenan Allen's questionable. I'm just going to assume he's out again. Gerald Everett's questionable. Guyton's on the IR. So Joshua Palmer's going to be like that slot-in wide receiver 1 possibly. DeAndre Carter, questionable. Against a Kansas City Chiefs team that allows 2.1 passing touchdowns per game, that's highest in the league. Vulnerable matchup. I like Joshua Palmer a lot more because he is for sure healthy, and the guys around him are either A, going to play and be limited in snaps, or B, we might not see some of them. I really don't think that Keenan Allen's going to play, but we'll see. Trade deadline is in 2 weeks, so I'll just have to wait and see. Cadillac, yeah, don't wait until the very end. Maybe just wait 1 week and see what you want to do, but I'd be okay with Godwin. Personally, I'm taking Godwin. Something I'll let all of you know right now. Never going to tell you what to do. Never going to guarantee a win. I will tell you what I would do in that situation and why. In terms of guaranteeing wins, I am a personal believer that with in-depth research, if you look up the right information and you do deep dives on these different players, the context, we're looking at depth charts, who's hurt, something simple like that. We're not just looking at point projections. We're also looking at snap count usage. This guy was in for more snaps than the other one. As I said, depth charts, who's getting the start over somebody else, who's getting those reps. We're looking at quotes from coaches in practice, who's been doing well. We kind of got to study it like a journalist of the game, right? Like we're about to interview somebody, like we're about to call a game, and that's something I do, so that's kind of something I relate to. We want to do deep dives in these teams. We want to look at target usage, and we want to look at these 3 aspects in general. Availability, are they healthy? Opportunity, are they being used? Productivity, are they efficient? In running backs, this looks like yards per carry. Are they getting a decent amount of looks and receptions as well, since everybody's going standard PPR or half-point PPR? For wide receivers, it's going to be catch percentage. How many targets are they actually catching? How many are they pulling in, right? How many yards per reception? Are they getting red zone targets? Those are the types of things we look at. We can dive really deep and we look at slot wide receivers like Tyler Lockett or Chris Godwin. Who are they going up against? How is that team against the slot wide receiver? We look at the strength of the opponent, all that good stuff. So I'll never guarantee a win, but I will put the research in front of you that I think is going to give you the best chance to win. We're going to out-research our opponents. That's the goal here. Feelings on Higbee with no more cup. Very high on Tyler Higbee, Jason. I think Allen Robinson's stock just shot up. Ben Skro just shot up as well. And then Tyler Higbee as well. It's a losing football team. It's going to have to throw the ball a lot. Cadillac, Connor or Debo at flex this week. They play each other, actually, too. So, uno momento. Because it's been all Brandon Ayuk as of late. Yeah, Debo was 6 targets last time. Not anything too bad. I'm probably going James Conner, Cadillac, because it looks like either Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy will be out. They might be down to Trace McSorley. If Kyler starts, I would consider Debo. If it's anybody other than Kyler, they're probably going to go more run heavy, whether it's Colt McCoy or Trace McSorley, and then you're going to get more volume for James Conner. Even if he's not productive, he'll probably get his 20 touches. So, Cadillac, if Kyler is in, let's go with Debo. If Kyler's out, let's go with James Conner. On a prediction that I think it's going to be a more run-heavy scheme with a backup quarterback. We'll do a couple more questions answered, and then I will hop out of here. But as always, you guys can toss your questions in the chat. We archive them, and then I answer them as soon as possible, as efficiently as possible. thorough as I possibly can for you. Brian, went into my draft just going with BPA. Happy with my wide receiving core. CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, and George Pickens. You should be. But again, just iffy with Olave. Yeah, it was one bad week, Brian. If we're going to sell Olave off, we got to wait for that value to shoot up. He had his worst week of the year, 7 points. Not that bad for a worst week of the year. 3 receptions, 40 yards. We want to see that value shoot up a little bit if we're going to sell somebody off. So I'm not opposed to you doing it, but he has been pretty consistent. I see Brown and Lamb putting up big points, and the opposite for Olave. Olave's quietly consistent. 12, 13, 14, right? Tino said, Corey, I need a tight end. Do you trust Foster? Foster Moreau, I do. Tino, I was bringing this up about Foster Moreau before. I had a full screen here I can pull up for you guys. This was last week against the Indianapolis Colts, 54.1% or 13 of 24 of passes completed. I should have put that in there. We're to a running back or tight end. Obviously, Darren Waller out, Foster Moreau in, had his best week of the year. And, Tino, it's a banged-up team in the Raiders. So, because it's a banged-up team, they're going to run out of options, and Foster Moreau is going to have to get the ball. Keep in mind, Hunter Renfrow was also out. So, no Renfrow, no Darren Waller. I think that Mr. Moreau has got some appeal. And B, they lose the game more often than not. So, you know what? Game script-wise, they'll probably get a decent amount of passes there in the second half. That's my thought process there. It's from NX again. So you think I should lock in ETN and Chase for Chubb, Mike, Will, and Ayuk, or Sutton and Watson instead of either? I'm trusting Ayuk more than Watson. He had one great week. I have plenty of good things to say about Watson. I think he has lots of upside. I want to see some consistency before I go after him in a trade package where I am including Travis Etienne, who's a top 10 running back, and Jamar Chase is a top 10 wide receiver when healthy. Lock it in. I think we lock it in. We just need Mike Will to be healthy. If you want to replace Mike Will, you put Courtland Sutton in there instead, who hasn't been producing great. Okay, but they've got some optimal matchups coming up. One of which is this week against that Raiders secondary that's been very vulnerable. Bottom 5 in the league in terms of fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. So you could replace Mike Will with Sutton. I would not be worried about Ayuk. Otherwise, lock it in. All right. And NX, if you're enjoying the content, I do this twice a week. I do 2 lives, and then I do this for all of you. Do shorts pretty much every single day. And I always, always, always answer the comments that you leave on any video. Okay? If I don't answer it, do another comment on top of it and remind me. It'll go to the top of my timeline, and I'll do some thorough research for you. I'll send you links. I was doing that before on where I got my information, and we'll go from there. But if you're enjoying the content, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm here to help all of you on your fantasy football journey through this season and beyond, and the next one as well. Can't wait to start doing some mock drafts, some dynasty drafts, all that good stuff, some rookie analyses on the 2023 rookie class. So I would lock it in. Evan Sachansky. Team is Fields, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Deontay Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Damian Pierce, George Everett, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift. Okay. Pickens. Should I start Hurts or... Oh, okay. You meant to say Hurts at the end instead of Fields again. Should I start Hurts for AJ... Oh, should I do Hurts for AJ Brown? You know, Brown's value is down. Oh, you have Fields. Okay, you have to keep in mind, Evan, Fields does have some tough games coming up. He's playing the... he's in a very easy stretch right now. Just played the Lions. Did well against the Cowboys, although it wasn't garbage time. But then he's also going to end up going up against the Jets and Bills, and I'm not a big fan of that. So Fields has some rough days ahead, in my opinion. Maybe he shocks us all and still puts up 25 points against those teams. I would be thrilled because I have him on one of my teams. So if you want to sell out Hurts for A.J. Brown, I suggest you get a good backup. Get a Kirk Cousins or a Jared Goff. Kirk Cousins probably not going to be available. Maybe even a Marcus Mariota, who's been quietly putting up 15 to 16 points a game. So you're trying to upgrade in the wide receiver category. I would not do it, Evan, because it's a run-heavy offense in Philadelphia. If we look here, run-heavy offense in Philadelphia. We're talking about a team that runs the ball more than... This is pass play percentage, by the way. So it's pretty much 50-50. They're one of 5 teams that runs the ball more than they pass the ball. Only the Giants, Titans, Falcons, and Bears do it more. Run the ball more, that is. So it's a run prioritizing team, some of which is Jalen Hurts, and they're just trying to preserve that number 1 seed now. So if they're up 2 touchdowns, this is not a team like the Bills who's just going to toss the ball deep when they're up 2 possessions late, try and hit you over the head with another pass to Gabriel Davis or Stephon Diggs or Dawson Knox or Isaiah McKenzie. They're not going to do that. They're going to run the ball and get out of there. So I would not do Hurts for A.J. Brown because late in the game, A, he's coming off an injury. I understand you're buying him low. B, Fields has some tough games ahead. C, it's a run-heavy scheme. You could get A.J. Brown. I wouldn't do Hurts for him, though. NX says, thanks in advance, man. Already did. No problem. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for subscribing. Jason, when are you typically live? Jason, it's twice a week for my ads and my drops. So today was waiver wire ads. Then I do drops. So people who are owned over 50% of leagues who are not producing. I did like Robert Woods last week. That aged really well. He had another horrible week. Jason, it's usually Tuesday and Friday or Wednesday and Saturday. Full-time student, and then I have a job as well, so I'm kind of balancing that. But it's going to be Tuesday and Friday or Wednesday and Saturday. You guys can follow this account on social media as well. We've got an Instagram, a Facebook, and a Twitter. Those links are all in the description. I put stream updates on there once in a while as well. We're streaming tonight. We're not streaming tonight. We're streaming on these days this week. But typically it's Tuesday and Friday or Wednesday and Saturday. This week is going to be a Wednesday and Saturday week. For those of you who are on here right now, thank you for joining. I will be streaming Saturday afternoon, like mid-afternoon, probably like 3 or 4 Central Time, for a couple of hours while college football playoffs, or while college football chaos is going on. I'm speaking too fast. But yeah, typically Tuesday and Friday, and then Wednesday and Saturday. I'll build in some other live streams as well. For you newer fantasy football players, I have a video right now on here. It's about 10 minutes, posted about a month ago. It's 5 things you should not do in fantasy football. Go check that out. So I'll have plenty of content going out after the season. So Jason, Tuesday and Friday, Wednesday and Saturday. The schedule will change after the NFL season as well, but I plan to still stream 2 to 3 times a week. Hopefully more. Hopefully more. Cadillac says, thanks, man. No problem. NX says, already did. Appreciate you, man. Cadillac trade Fields, Josh Jacobs, and TJ Hawkinson, I'm assuming. For Derrick Henry and Tua, my main tight end is Kelsey. W. Oh. Wait a minute. Lamar. Who are we saying is Lamar? Cadillac. Otherwise, Fields, Jacobs, and TJ Hawkinson for Henry and Tua, my main tight end. I would go for more than Henry and Tua. I think you could get a 3 for 3. You've got Kelsey, but maybe go and get a wide receiver. Go get like a wide receiver too. You could do a 3 for 3. Fields is phenomenal. Jacobs gets used a lot, even though they're a losing team. And Hawkinson's like a top 5 tight end because he's been getting used a lot more. So who is Lamar replacing in that statement, Cadillac? And this will be the last question I answer, guys. I'm going to go to bed, do some homework, but you guys can always leave questions in the comment section. Okay. Lamar, Jacobs, and TJ Hawkinson for Derrick Henry and Tua. Okay. Yeah, I would. That statement stands. We've got a guy who has a lot of design runs etched out for him, as we know. Every rushing yard is 0.1. Every passing yard is 0.04, right? I think we can get Henry, Tua, and go get a wide receiver too. Go get somebody who's on the same level as like an Adam Thielen or Devontae Smith, right? Like an effective wide receiver too. Go have them throw that in there. Let's get a good pass catcher as well. Okay. So sure, give up Lamar, Jacobs, and TJ. You've got Kelsey already. That's fine. It's good to understand you have value to deal, but get Henry, get Tua. I like the mutually beneficial approach, and I always tell people this. Don't go into a trade phrasing it like, here's who I want. Who do I have to fork over to get them? That's not what we want to do, right? It's not going to make the person that we're trying to deal with want to make said deal. But at the same time, we want to make sure it's beneficial for us. So Cadillac, tack on a wide receiver 2 in that deal for your end. So it's a 3 for 3, and I think you've got yourself a fair deal. Tyler, I'll answer yours, and then we're going to get going. Hope you guys are all enjoying the live stream, getting some benefit from it. Again, I will be streaming Saturday afternoon, so you can tune in then. And those are going to be my drops, but I always do a fantasy football Q&A at the end. It's my structure. Team is Daniel Jones, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Watson, Pat Freiermuth, Deontay Foreman. Bench is going to be Brandon Cooks, Kareem Hunt, Drake London, Zay Jones, Mecole Hardman. 3-7 record. Unsure how I can make the playoffs with this. So we're going to go for a home run hitter, Tyler. Let's find somebody who's willing to get some depth. You've got DeAndre Hopkins. Excuse me. If you're trying to make a playoff run, we probably got to go 7-7. I'm assuming your playoffs start after week 14. Got to run the table. Daniel Jones, okay. Joe Mixon, okay, with volume. Let's pair James Conner after a very inefficient day with 2 touchdowns. Let's pair James Conner. And let's put him with either Christian Watson. We can build off that big performance. He has proven nothing consistency-wise. I love him. He has lots of upside. But let's take James Conner, who had an inefficient day. Let's take Christian Watson, who maybe had a fluke day. Let's go and shoot for Cooper Kupp's hurt. I want you to try and get, if you could somehow swing like a Nick Chubb or a Dalvin Cook, you could go James Conner and Kareem Hunt for Dalvin Cook. Let's try that. Otherwise, if you want to go for like a Nick Chubb, you need to give up some high-level talent. You don't want to give up DeAndre Hopkins, but you probably have to. So I would say go and get Dalvin Cook. Top 10 in rushing attempts, rushing yards, top 15 in rushing touchdowns, and then 5.0 yards a carry. So Tyler, let's go and get ourselves like a Dalvin Cook, or if you want some help in the wide receiving category, let's go get a Chris Godwin. We can bind James Conner and Adam Thielen and probably get a Chris Godwin. All right, Tyler, I hope that helps. Brian says, thanks again, man. Always looking forward to these live streams. Here's to hitting 250 soon. Oh, let's see. Cadillac said, I meant to say I already traded, but my wide receivers are D-Hop, Godwin, Debo, Gary Wilson, and A-Rob. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, if you can go and pick up another wide receiver, that's fine. But Tua is good, and obviously Henry's that juggernaut, right? Tyler says, awesome. I'll see what I can scramble up. Tyler, I do live streams Tuesday and Friday or Wednesday and Saturday, depending on my schedule. This week, it's going to be a Wednesday and Saturday week. That's why I am here. So make sure you like and make sure you subscribe. I can answer plenty of your questions off the stream. You can comment on any video, and I'll get back to you. I'll do research, and I'll drop some links for you as well, so we can kind of dissect your team and help you try and run the table. But you can also drop in on Saturday afternoon about 3 or 4 is when I'm going to start Central Time. I'm in the Midwest, and I can answer more of your questions as well. So Tyler, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so we can answer some more of your questions in the upcoming live stream. That goes for all of you. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, make sure you like. Again, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Athletes. I hope I answered all of your questions. I hope I helped you a ton going into this week. No problem, Cadillac. So I hope all of you have a wonderful night. We will see you Saturday. Let's go win week 11, okay? Let's go do it. Let's go be winners. Winners win. I'll see you guys later.